Welcome to Ty and That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham, and this is my good pal, Franck.
I'm kind of missing the cool, sexy NPR host voice you were doing a little while ago. I think we should go back to it. It just made me feel happy.
Last podcast?
No, it was a couple ago. But yeah, you did like a real sexy voice like this.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that one.
When I listen to NPR, I don't think sexy, but I understand what you're saying. There's something like so booky and clean about their and smug.
I don't think smug, but I mean, look, Terry Gross can get it. I'm just saying. If Terry Gross wants it, she can get it. Yeah, that woman's voice is all sex appeal for me.
I was kidding about smug.
Smug.
Yeah.
Don't bring your Georgia politics into this.
I was just trying to represent the other half.
So today is season 3, the premiere.
No,
season 3.
What are you doing? I'm working on my NPR.
Oh, go hit me with it. Hit me with it.
Welcome to Ty and That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham, and this is my good pal, Franck.
It's good to be here with you, Wes Chatham. Let's talk about season 3, episode 1, Fight or Flight. Written by Mark Fergus and Hawk Osby, and directed by Michael Breckenridge Eisner.
Michael Breckenridge Eisner.
Or Mikey B.
Mikey B. You remember when we were all telling our sad stories about our childhood? And
I do.
We were all at a dinner, and we were with Breckenridge, and he was Breck Eisner, and we were all telling stories about really sad or embarrassing moments of our childhood, and we were laughing at each other and just enjoying each other's pity. And Breck wanted to be a part of the conversation and be a part of the team, and he thought he had a good story that was comparable to the things that we were talking about. I think Ty had a story about getting stabbed or something. And Breck tells the story, dead serious, about him.
Can I tell this one?
Yeah, you tell it. Yeah.
Okay, so Breck starts telling us about how hard it was for him in high school. He went to a private school. His family has money, so he went to a private school, and all the other rich kids there were much more spoiled than he was, is his version of the story. And so everybody there had like a BMW or a Mercedes or a Porsche. You know, all these kids were driving these incredibly expensive cars that their Hollywood parents had bought for them. And Breck is telling the story. He goes, and my parents had, my grandmother had left a car when she died, this really old car. And my parents are like, hey, we can give this car to Breck, and it can be his first car for high school. Breck's telling this story about how he had to drive to high school in this incredibly old car that his grandmother had left, when all the other kids had brand new Porsches and Maseratis and BMWs, and how embarrassing it was to pull up in the parking lot and how he would hope nobody would see him. And so I'm like, dude, what kind of car was this? It was a classic Jaguar. It was like one of the most classic, like late 60s Jaguars. It's a beautiful car. It's probably worth $1 million now. And also, the most embarrassing thing about his high school life is he had to drive a classic Jag to school.
But also in extremely good condition. It wasn't like something.
Oh yeah, like mint.
Yeah, it was like mint, like left in a garage.
Yeah, his grandmother had driven it for 1,000 miles or something.
Or she didn't drive it. Her driver drove it and took really good care of it. Yeah. And poor Breck had to drive that to school.
Yeah, and I was like, God, how devastating for you. That's like way worse than that time I got stabbed.
Yeah. All right, so we're coming in hot. We're kicking off season 3, and a lot of the sequences are just continuations of where we left off in season 2 finale. We pick up and the Rossi family is in disarray. Naomi has betrayed the crew, and they are having to deal with that betrayal. And so much that they have to erase their drive signature because they're about to be in a war zone, and they know the Rocinante is a prize for both sides. So they have to erase the Rossi symbol and the name on the ship, and that's just a visual metaphor of them kind of losing that center or that core of their family. And they end up having to rename the ship. Is it Penis or Pinus? Pinus Cortoria?
It's Pinus, but it's funnier if you say penis.
I know. I know it's Pinus, but I wanted to say penis. And the thing about the penis is, in order to spread its seed, it needs to die in fire. And so that's foreshadowing, we are in the middle of a war, and this family is in trouble. And there's a good idea that we're going to have to be baptized by fire in order to kind of heal our wounds and have everybody come back together.
Yeah.
Is the penis tree, that's up in your neck of the woods, right? Is that what gave you the idea, that name of the tree?
That's actually, I believe that was a pitch from Daniel in the writer's room, the contorta pine. I remember when he pitched that idea, Mark and Hawk I think they really just dug that idea of naming it after something that has to burn in order to survive. And I could be wrong. I mean, that was like 4 years ago, but I believe that was Daniel's pitch. And if it was Daniel's pitch, then that means it's almost certainly a tree from New Mexico, because Daniel only knows about things from New Mexico.
Daniel Abraham pitch?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's right. He only knows things about New Mexico. That's the extent of he is the probably the most homebody of everybody that works on the show.
Yeah.
If he has to come out, he'll come out. But as soon as his obligation's done, he's on that plane headed right back to New Mexico.
He really likes sitting on his couch at home. That's what he likes. Yeah. Daniel's a guy who, he doesn't write because he needs to write to make money. Although, I mean, obviously he makes his living writing, but he writes because he just really, really likes sitting on his couch and writing. So if you gave him $1 billion and said you can do anything you want, I guarantee he's going to spend 99% of his time sitting on a really nice couch, typing on a laptop and writing books. It's just
yeah. If you gave him $1 billion, his life would not change one
not
bit.
Much. Not much. I think a lot of other people's lives would change, because I think Daniel's one of those people who'd give away 990 million of the billion and then just sit on his couch and type.
Would you and I get any of that?
I doubt it. Yeah.
So listen, Naomi's betrayal. I mean, I put myself in that position. I would be pissed off too, and especially from Amos's point of view. First of all, she didn't tell him about it was Holden's call to go answer the signal that got him all into this trouble in the first place, and she stabbed him in the heart, literally, to put him out so she could go do what she needs to do. And she lied about stashing the protomolecule. And not only did she lie about stashing the protomolecule and telling everybody that she destroyed it, she gave it to Fred Johnson, and she didn't tell Amos any of this. When he says she's not the person that I thought she was, at this point, she's out of that category that she was with him, or that special relationship that they had.
Yeah, I think Amos doesn't trust easily for obvious reasons. And I think people who don't trust easily also take perceived betrayal the hardest, because it's very hard to get their trust to begin with. And when you break that trust, it's almost impossible to get it back. So I think that's where he's at. He felt like he could trust her, and he thinks she's demonstrated that she can't be trusted.
And I don't think they've ever been the same from this point forward. And it's really demonstrated by the scene, because Holden figures out that the protomolecule communicates with each other. And when they burned the protomolecule monster, there was a spike, the different places that they know the protomolecule's at, but also on Io.
Yeah.
And so he has the idea of like, that might be how he starts off. He's like, I didn't give a fuck about your daughter, Prax. But that there's a strong possibility that Prax's daughter might be on Io. And so he wants to go there. Naomi wants to go to Tycho Station. She thinks it's the safest place, their best bet. They have no friends. They have no allies. They go to Tycho Station. And usually when she makes her case or makes her point, Amos 100% sides with her. But the rest of the crew usually goes with her. This time they're like, nah, fuck it. We're going to Io. And it really demonstrates her diminished influence in the crew at that point.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on there. It's not just one thing. Yeah, she's done something that the crew has different levels of feeling betrayed by, but on top of that, Holden is feeling a lot of guilt about the way he feels like he used Prax, chasing the white whale of the protomolecule on Ganymede, almost letting Amos and Naomi die because he was so obsessed with destroying it. He's feeling a lot of guilt about that. And he sees rescuing May as a way to absolve that guilt, So that's where he's coming from. I think, Amos is mad at Naomi for sure because he feels she betrayed him. But at the same time, if you want to pick a mission that Amos is immediately going to sign up for, all you have to do is say, here's a bunch of innocent kids who are about to be murdered, and maybe we can go save them. That's how you get Amos on the team, right? I mean, that's his trigger, is his kids who are being violated and misused and exploited. So, and he's starting to become friends with Prax. So he's like, here's my friend whose daughter is about to be exploited and killed. We could maybe go save her. Of course, Amos is going to be on board for that. That's just automatic for him. That's his thing.
Yeah. Yes. And I agree with the other things that are going on and where Holden is. But what demonstrates it to me how the new relationship between them and Naomi is the fact that Amos season 1, episode 1 is going to side with her 100% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
If she wants to go to Tycho Station, he will kill everybody on the Rossi to make sure they get to Tycho Station.
In season 1, he's going to agree with her in front of everybody else. But even in season 1, when they were alone, he said, "Are you sure about this, boss? I think the other guys are making a good point." He wasn't mindlessly following her.
Was that episode 1 or was that
No,
episode
that's
3?
back to the butcher. That's episode 5.
Yeah, episode 5.
Yeah, where he takes her aside and goes, "Hey, maybe we should talk about doing this."
And there was a little bit of an evolution at that point to get to that point. But episode 1, you know, when he's in there, but yeah, I mean, that's in there with him. But episode 1, I think, and again, I'm exaggerating about killing everybody in that crew, but there would be no question in that room when she said, "We should go to Tycho Station. You want to go to Tycho Station? We go to Tycho Station."
Yeah.
And then this is how this should happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't even think at that point, at the beginning of season 1, episode 1, even if he thought something differently, I think he would do what she thought was right in that.
I still believe that if Amos genuinely thought she was moving the wrong direction, when nobody else was around, he would have talked to her about it.
Yeah.
Because we see him do that even in season 1. I think, let's say she hadn't given the protomolecule to Fred. Amos doesn't feel betrayed by her. Their relationship is basically what it was before. In that moment, or Holden says, "We should go save the kid." And she's saying, "We should go to Tycho." He might have sided with her in front of the other guys, but I still think he's the kind of guy, like when the two of them were alone, he would have been like, "I really feel like we should try to save this kid." Like he would have tried to talk her into it.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. But do you think he would have ultimately just did what she thought was best?
I think that version of Amos trusted her judgment more than he trusted his own.
Yeah.
And if she was adamant about doing something different than what he thought he should do, he would just assume she must be right for some reason.
Yeah, it's interesting because that situation would have went different ways depending on where they were in their journey together. So you think about season 1, episode 1, you talk about the end of season 1, the end of season 2, and where we are now with all this big betrayal that's happening, you know, the aftermath of season 3. So each one would have been a different conversation. He's drifting further and further away from her.
Well, look at the conversation they have at the end of last season. In the last episode of season 2, they're preparing to blow the monster out of the ship with the air pressure idea that Amos came up with. And Amos is welding some doors shut. He has that conversation with Naomi where he says, "I've been trying to figure out how to make decisions for myself and I keep making the wrong ones." He's really being very vulnerable with her right there. He's saying, like, in the past, he has always just picked a person to follow. Like, he picked Naomi to follow. Later, he picks Holden to follow. Like, he picks people to follow. And he experimented with, have I become a good enough person that I can make decisions on my own now? He experimented with it. And he really feels like the experiment failed. He's still not a person that he can trust. He still doesn't trust himself. And he's having that very vulnerable conversation with her just before she reveals that she betrayed him. So I think there's a lot going on in this first episode between the two of them. He was super vulnerable with her. He finds out she did something that he considers a betrayal. He's kind of rudderless now because Naomi is no longer his guide star. He's becoming friendly with Prax, but he doesn't just like blindly follow Prax.
Right.
Holden, he's still learning Holden. He's still like learning whether or not he can follow Holden. So to some degree, Amos is a little adrift here.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying it would be a different conversation of where they are on the arc. But after, the defining moment is when we find out that she's hid the protomolecule. Not only did she hid the protomolecule and lie about it, she gave it to Fred Johnson. And when you see Alex and Amos in the hangar bay in the beginning of this episode, his defenses are back up. Yeah. And he says, you know, do you think that we could get work on Eros, or do you think we could do? And Alex is like, no, we got to fix the family. We got to fix. And it's like, no, look, the family made sense at one point in time. It doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
This family's already over. And you just need to let that know. And he says, what about Naomi? And he says, Naomi's not the person I thought she was in that revelation. So we start off finding Fred Johnson. Naomi's giving Fred Johnson the protomolecule, and he's sending a message to Anderson Dawes, and he says, we have Earth's weapon, but you have the key to make it work. And so let's get together and try to figure this out.
Yeah.
And again, like we always talk about how pragmatic and sensible Fred Johnson is, because Anderson Dawes just tried to fucking kill him. You know, just literally like ambushed him and killed him. And what is he thinking at this moment? What is his mindset? He realized that this is the best choice that he's got to take and that he's just going to let it go?
Well, no, Dawes didn't try to kill Fred. The guys who broke into the control room on Tycho, in season 2 to try to steal the missiles, that was not at Dawes' orders. Dawes argued that the belt should keep the missiles, that the belt should have access to the missiles. He'd made that argument. And those guys are going, yeah, Dawes was right. And that's how they try to implement that. But he didn't order them to do that. But having said that, he did steal Cortazar. He did trick them. He did steal Cortazar away. He did in that way betray Fred's trust. But as you were saying, Fred is the ultimate pragmatist.
Wait a minute. Isn't Drummer pissed off at Fred because he's hooking back up with Dawes and because she said that Dawes tried to kill them?
Yes. That's maybe where on a show, our writing gets too slow. So Drummer is blaming Dawes for that happening because Dawes is the one who was arguing, we should have the missiles, we should keep them. That argument is what triggered the rebels on Tycho to come try to take them. She's not arguing that Dawes ordered them to do that. She's arguing, look, this guy's dangerous. If he argues for something, look what happens. Suddenly we have guys with guns in the control room trying to kill us. So,
I figured because he took off with Cortazar, and they realized they've been betrayed, and then all of a sudden the Belters come in and they ambush him in the control room. How do they know that it wasn't Dawes? Is it just intuition and just knowing the situation, or?
I think Drummer probably does believe Dawes had something to do with it, but they have no way to know that either. So what Fred is saying when he reaches out to Dawes is he's saying, look, we've both done shit that the other one didn't like. We've both done it. But now I have half of a key and you have half of a key. Let's find a way to get back together. Let's find a way to, put the past behind us and make use of this for everybody, to make everybody in the belt have a better situation. And I think more than anything else, this shows the fundamental difference between Dawes and Fred. So Dawes is like rah the belt, but Dawes' version of rah the belt is Dawes needs to be in charge. Dawes needs to be important in that, right? He wants to be the main guy. Fred's version of that is who cares who's in charge as long as the Belters get a better life. And I think ultimately Fred is a far more moral man than Dawes is.
And Drummer's wound, that's still from the shot, right? When she got shot.
Yeah, she got shot, yeah.
Don't they have shit to fix that? Why is it still bleeding? Why does she still have there's a scene where I basically spray some healing shit on somebody's wound. It heals before your eyes. It's like
it doesn't heal before your eyes.
It's like the Grail in the Last Crusade when he pours it on Sean Connery's chest.
What we have is stuff that will close up wounds that you can spray on, but I mean we basically have that now. I mean you have basically spray on skin that you can buy that will seal a wound up. It's not like magical, like instant healing. The idea there was that she's probably beginning ongoing surgeries. Right? Like, you get shot in the gut. There's a lot of shit that goes wrong in there when you get shot in the gut.
Yeah.
She's probably had multiple surgeries to fix things there. And she pushes herself too hard. Look, like if they put the medical shit on her and she spent a week in bed, she probably doesn't have a bleeding wound anymore.
Yeah,
but
she's doing hanging sit-ups.
Yeah, exactly. She's Drummer.
And
so
I've
she's
seen
doing
her,
fucking sit-ups.
And I'm watching do those hanging sit-ups and her wound is open and bleeding. And I'm like, wait a minute, we can heal cancer. Like, why we can't heal this wound for, like, it's got to have been weeks since the attack happened. What's going on?
Yeah, the idea there is, one, it's an ongoing injury. She's had multiple surgeries for it, that kind of stuff. But the other idea is, by having it bleed, we're demonstrating that Drummer is pushing herself too early. That she's pissed off that she got shot. She's pissed off about the whole situation. And she's trying to get back into fighting shape. And she's not ready to get back into fighting shape. She should just get in bed and stay in bed for a week and let the drugs work and let the wound heal. She's not willing to do that. She just keeps pushing herself. And by the way, shout out to Kara. Kara's a tiny little person, but she's a bad motherfucker because we had her do those hanging sit-ups over and over again. And that was her doing it. That wasn't like a stunt person or CGI. There was no wires there. She was doing that over and over again for hours while we shot that scene. And she was just a gamer. She was just doing those sit-ups every time. Like most other people would have been laying on the floor puking their guts up after 10 minutes of that.
And when he says a lot of times, Breck Eisner was directing, so she did it a lot of times. There was a 21 lot of takes.
Breck Eisner.
Yeah, there was a lot of takes in those sit-ups. Okay, that was perfect. Back to one.
Perfect. Let's do it again.
Yeah, this was great. That was fucking money. We could not do it better. Back to one. Meanwhile, on Earth, Aaron Wright is perfectly positioned. And I really liked Aaron Wright in this episode, how he just is now firmly in the antagonist seat. I mean, he is committed. He knows what he has to do. He is focused. He is pinning what he did in his actions on Avasarala. And it works out perfectly because Avasarala is gone. And he thinks at the beginning of the episode that she is now taken care of, that she's now dead.
Yeah. And he sends the escort ship to blow them up.
Yeah. And then he finds out halfway through that it didn't, that the mess is not cleaned up. And so now he's like, motherfucker, man, I can't, I'm barely staying ahead of this thing. And he talks the prime minister into going to war with Mars. And so if he gets rid of Avasarala, he has a very tight, secure path.
Yeah.
And so he's got to get rid of her, and that's what's going to happen.
So I read a thing, this was years ago, but I was reading a thing about suicidal charges, like on a battlefield. Like in the old days with like muskets and bayonets and that kind of stuff, like where you were on your last legs, you're out of ammo, there's a superior force coming, and you decide to just charge down the hill, bayonets fixed, into the battle, right? And they were talking about how sometimes that works. Sometimes you run down the hill and like enough of you make it down the hill and it's enough of a surprise to the attacking force that you get in there and you can actually win the battle that way. It's a low percentage shot, but sometimes it works. And the thing that the guy said, which has always stuck with me, is the thing you can never allow in that kind of situation is you reach the bottom of the hill and engage the enemy. You are surprised as fuck to be there, because when you ran down the hill, you were running into musket fire, right?
Right.
To get down that hill. And now you're down at the bottom. You made it. He's like, you can't let yourself be surprised you lived until every single one of the enemy is dead or running away. You can't pause. You can't think about it. You just deal with that later. You just got to keep going until everybody's dead or run away. And that's where Aaron Wright is at. In that moment when he reveals his complicity to Avasarala and she says, you're going to have to answer for this. When he sets up the thing on the Guanshin, he's running down the hill with his bayonet fixed, right? He's like, fuck it. I'm dead anyway. I might as well give it a try. And he's doing that. Like, he can't stop. Like, he made it down to the bottom of the hill. He's shocked to be there. He's shocked that any of this has worked, but he's just laying around with the bayonet now. Yeah. Like, let's see what happens, because if you pause at all, if you take a breath, if you spend any time thinking about how unlikely it is that you got there, you're fucked. You're going to lose the momentum, right? And he's just riding the momentum now.
I often think about that when, like, if I watch Braveheart or I watch, did you watch the Peter Jackson documentary on World War One?
Yes.
The trench warfare. It's fucking terrific.
Yeah.
But when they're like, charge! And everybody fucking storms out of the trenches, and they go, or in, Braveheart, when they have swords and they're running across the field.
Yep.
I always think, like, what would I do in that situation? Do you want to be first? Do you want to be first? Or you want to kind of hang back a little bit, and then let the bulk of the people go in, and then when the wounded guys come out, just fuck them up. Because once they make it through the crowd, they're going to be wounded and hurt, But if you're first, like, you're running into some sharp things, right?
Well, based on my reading about historical medieval battles, what you would do in that situation is most likely get shot with an arrow and die.
Yeah, most
people got shot with arrows and died.
That's another argument. Do you want to be in? Because the first 5 rows are going to get shot by arrows, right? So if I'm thinking about charging, or even in World War II, like when you're thinking about charging, because they're like they're fucking running in the dark, whatever. But there's all this cover and mounds and shit. Like, would you go to one mound and go to the next mound, or would you just fucking all buzz out? I mean, I understand why Mel Gibson did it, because they slit his wife's throat and he's pissed off. I get it, but it's an emotional thing. I mean, have you thought about what you would do in those situations?
No. Am I the kind of person who would have a sword and a little shield and run at a giant line of guys with spears and arrows and stuff? Probably not.
Yes, you would. If you're in that time, in that situation, your farm's at stake. They're coming to take your farm and your family. And was it prima nocta shit where they can fuck your wife? Yeah, I'm in the line. We're fighting. I'm just saying, do I want to be first? Because even if you are first and you're kicking ass, you're going to get tired after a while. And now you're like, shit, I'm exhausted. I'm in the middle of this mayhem, Yep. But if you're on the corner and you come in and just fucking, just kill some wounded people and then hang back, catch your breath, get your composure, go back in, kill some wounded people. Or you bat cleanup. You just hang out and because when they're walking around and people are like on the ground, and they just kind of are just stabbing people on the ground.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about that scene in 300 where like that first big battle where they've got the shield wall and they're fighting the dudes and the shield wall slowly moving forward, and then there's like 5 or 6 guys just bringing up the rear, stabbing the dudes on the ground. I'm like, that seems like a good job.
That's the job.
Yeah, I like be the guy in the back stabbing dudes on the ground.
Be like, yeah, motherfucker, we'll be in the back just like stabbing you, bitch. And just we'll be talking shit like we're really here's so much shit. Ah!
Letting all the other dudes like sweep away. Yeah.
Yeah.
The reality of that kind of situation is obviously I've never been in that kind of situation. The guy tells you to jump him out of the trench and run at German machine guns. I've never been in that situation. Who knows what would be going through your head? I can't even imagine. But I have been in situations where, as it was developing, I realized, oh shit, I'm in a fight for my life. Like, it didn't start out feeling like that, but then it suddenly shifts to that. And the thing I know is you don't think about it until it's over, right? Like when it's over with, you're like, holy shit, man, that could have gone really bad. Like I'm in a fight. I was in my fight for my life there. Yeah. I have to think it's a similar kind of thing. You just jump up, you got your bayonet on your rifle, you just go running at the other side, you're not thinking about it. And then a couple minutes later when you're laying on the ground, shot through the stomach, you'd be laying there going, fuck, I shouldn't have done that. That was dumb. Why do we do this? This is a stupid way to fight war.
Yeah, modern warfare tactics make more sense to me. Like if you see the SEAL teams and the stealth and always having the advantage and striking hard and fast and keeping chaos on your side and being strategic about it. But somebody coming and kicking a fucking soccer ball and blowing a whistle and you're charging 50 cal machine guns.
Infantry now has evolved where their primary job is to scout and call in attacks from much more powerful weaponry. They're there like, oh, there's a bunch of dudes over there. Let's take cover, pin them down, and call in a fucking A-10.
Yeah.
Or an artillery strike or an Apache gunship. Infantry is used very differently today than it was even 40 years ago.
Did you ever see Legend of the Fall?
Yeah.
You remember when Pitt's little brother, that was the E.T. guy, that was on E.T., when he gets killed?
Oh, and Brad Pitt starts scalping dudes?
Yeah, and Brad Pitt sneaks in at night and kills like 8 people. And I'm like, why didn't people be like, wait a minute, this is what we should be doing. Let's fucking sneak in at night and scalp them or kill them, and as opposed to like charging them in the daytime. I mean, I wonder like if that woke anybody up, or like, this might be the way to do it. I mean, that's what happened in the Revolutionary War, is that the British were so accustomed to standard open field warfare where you go, first row shoots, hits the knee, second row shoots, reload, they shoot, and very like fighting like gentlemen. And the Americans were like, fuck that. And they would just ambush him in the woods. Again, Mel Gibson was there. Mel Gibson has fought in the Revolutionary War, was part of the Scottish Uprising. Like that, he was in World War II. That guy's fought in all these wars.
Screaming racist stuff at cops. He's been all the wars.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fun with Avasarala's escape. I just think The Expanse is so lucky to have Sheree. She's so fun. She's funny. She can do it all. And her chemistry with Cortazar and then Bobby in that badass suit. And the suit was badass in this. And the visual effects in this, the first opening shot when you go from Earth and you're hearing their radio signals about war. And then you get to Mars and then you start hearing their radio signals. Yep. And then the gravity moment that Bobby has when her magnets don't work and she's falling down the ship and almost flies off the ship, and she grabs it, and then pulls herself up and is running like a lion up the side of the ship to get to the thing. Like all that was just awesome. Just so well done. Amazing. People say all the time, and I don't know for sure, each season do our budgets get bigger because our effects are so much more effective and the story just seems bigger. I don't know if it does or not, but in some ways...
Our budget has never really dramatically gone up. People like to think that it has, but the reality is we just got better at making the show. Our vendors got better at delivering the kind of effects we wanted. Our visual effects producers and supervisors got better at knowing what kinds of things to spend money on and what things we don't need to spend money on. And as producers, we just got better in general at figuring out the way to make the show. I mean, every show is its own animal, its own sort of creation. And part of the process of making a show is learning how to make that show. It's why almost all shows, the first season's a little uneven because the people making it don't know how to make it yet. And you just hope that you're good enough in the early seasons to keep going so that you can really get good. And I think by season 3, our visual effects people are really getting dialed in. We as the writers and producers are getting a better feel for what stories work and how to write them. And not to throw you guys under the bus, but I think the actors are more comfortable in their characters. The actors are much more comfortable wearing that character for 10 or 13 episodes. There's a lot of stuff that improves.
Itch up your tits and pucker up. Is this the first? Yeah, this is the first time we see the Razorback in action.
Yeah.
We see the flight deck, which is really cool. It had this cool flight deck where they're kind of suspended on this machine that throws them around. That's really good. And
before we get too far away from this, I want to give a shout out to his name just flew out of my head, and I'm so bad at names, and this is going to be the constant thing that drives me nuts doing this. But the actor who plays the electrician, Theo the electrician.
Oh, he was great.
A shout out to him. He was great. He's very funny. He did a fantastic job with a very small part, really just selling everything, and leads up to some really nice moments later in the next episode. I'll say this again for actors. When you get a part like this, like if you manage to get in and you get small parts like this is how you do it. Notice that the actor who's playing Theo isn't trying to grab a lot of screen time for himself that isn't written in. He's just, every moment that we give him, he does the best version of that moment. And you get him a lot of attention that way as an actor. That's how you get it.
Can I ask a question? Is it really a shout out if you don't remember his name?
I am hoping that Joseph, who is much better at this than I am, will put his picture and name on the screen when I say that.
Yeah.
So Joseph has got my back. Now, Wes, you just exposed me. Thank you. Joseph's got my back. Joseph's covering me.
Because the guy is fantastic, and you don't remember his name.
I last worked with him 4 years ago. Come on, man.
If only we had a producer that could jump in and give us his name and let us know who it is that...
I'm playing video games over here. What do you want?
Yeah. You can really tell the difference when Joseph isn't here. Like the quality of producing just goes way down.
I'm gonna start slowly bringing your mic volume down.
And all we get is complaints.
All we get is complaints.
Yeah, and he doesn't appreciate Die Hard, which is the inspiration for everything.
Yeah.
And anyway, so some great moments before we finish this episode is Holden smashing the coffee maker. I enjoyed that, and I thought Holden was really good in that. And you were talking about Drummer doing the hang sit-ups. Now, look, directed this, so imagine how many coffee machines that Holden had to smash before it was done.
Here's how you get Breck to limit the number of takes that he's going to do, is you tell him, we only have 2 of this prop. And that's what we did. We said, we've only got 2 of these, 2 of this prop. You're going to get 2 takes on this. Better get it right. And he does. And to his credit, he does. He got it right. We talk a lot of shit about Breck, but I gotta make sure I say, for the record, Wes and I both love Breck dearly, which is why we do a little ball breaking here.
Right.
But Breck is, the reason we love him is because more than, like most people, more than 99% of people you work with, Breck cares so much about the product. He cares so much about what you're making. And his perfectionism is all on that side. He just wants it to be perfect. He wants everything he does to be perfect. And that is what the thing that drives him. So we were teasing him about his Jaguar. Breck grew up with money, but I have never met anybody who grew up with money who cared less about money.
Yeah.
Breck doesn't care at all about money. What he cares about is making stories, and he wants to make really good stories, and he wants to make the best version of it that he can make. And that's why Wes and I both love him, because we're storytellers too, and Breck is just a storyteller.
And Ty and I, if we're giving you a hard time on the podcast, that means we really like you. So
yes, except for when we give Clint a hard time.
But not only, except for Clint.
I was about to say I love you guys, but never mind.
Never don't like Clint at all. So, but the thing about Breck is not only does he care so deeply, he's just fucking good. We can make fun of him because he is very talented. And he, on all aspects, we talked about the directors that care a lot about the camera and the technical side, but don't really have a deep understanding of the character and the storytelling aspect of it. And then there's the directors that really are strong storytellers and understand the characters or whatever, but they're not great on the technical side. Breck is one of those rare directors that has both. But Joseph, cut all of this out because I don't ever want Breck to hear us saying nice things about him.
Joseph, don't cut any of that out. Breck needs a little love from time to time.
Alex talking to his family, leaving a message for his family. And, the theme throughout this episode is families in trouble or families in crisis, which leads me to probably the most boring list of our podcast. This is not going to be the most fun because I wanted to make an effort, and Ty and I wanted to make an effort to make a top 5 list that wasn't genre, because every single list, we love genre and it always comes up genre. So we're going to try something a little different. We're going to try, because this is about family and family in trouble, we're going to try doing a list about families that are in trouble, but dramas. No comedies, no horror movies, no fun. So
family dramas.
Family dramas. What do you think about family dramas, Ty?
I avoid family drama like the plague. It's my least favorite genre, and I have like a really specific reason why I can't stand watching family dramas, but it's really specific to me. I don't know that anybody else agrees with me, but like the fundamental driver of every family drama, the core concept of family drama is that no matter how big a raft of shit someone makes you eat, if they're genetically related to you, you have to forgive them and keep them in your life. That's like the core of it, right? And that is a premise that I fundamentally disagree with. There are many toxic people that I am related to that I have absolutely nothing to do with. And so when I'm watching a family drama and like somebody's brother or sister is like being super toxic in their life, I'm like, just don't ever talk to them again. Just kick them out of your life. You're allowed to do that. And they never do, because that would end the drama.
You know what would be funny? Is if you said, I have toxic people in my family and then you just start naming their names, like Aunt Edna, fucking hate her, Uncle Joey, guy's an asshole, the worst. Yeah. Like, you just started naming all your family members that you never talked to and just throw them under the bus and just talk about all the terrible things that they did to you when you were a kid. Is it one of those people that stabbed you when you were a kid?
Well, several of them, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was like Murder on the Orient Express kind of thing where like everybody took turns stabbing me.
I don't have as strong of a aversion to family drama as you do. I think if anything is done well, I'm in. If it's a good story and I can really relate and connect to the family. But I will admit that I'm not as knowledgeable in this area. So when I was coming up with the list, usually when we think of a list or a premise, I can just off the top of my head just start writing down movies, and it just doesn't stop until we start. And then
I know what number 1 on the list is. I already know. So
I think we both know what's number 1.
Yeah.
But can you tell us why?
Yeah, because it's like it's the husband and wife in trouble. It's the classic family drama. It's the husband who feels like he has emotionally lost his wife, and he's trying to win her back, and he's willing to do almost anything to get her love back.
Literally willing to go through hell.
To go through hell.
Get her back.
It is I think the most beautiful love story ever put on film.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was when we did our love story, it was number 1 in love story for sure. But willing to walk through glass barefooted, just to make sure his wife is safe. You know what it is? It's the metaphorical dragon that he's up against. He's a knight in shining armor, and he's facing this dragon down, and he wants to save his wife, but more importantly, he wants to save his family. They have 2 kids.
Yep.
What's that movie?
He wants to put that marriage back together again. And like, he doesn't care how many people he has to kill, doesn't care how much glass he has to walk through, doesn't care how many elevators he has to explode with C4. At the end, he just wants his wife and his family back.
And that film was Ordinary People.
What's the film, Ty?
Well, I mean, obviously it's Die Hard, the greatest romantic story ever told.
The greatest family drama ever made.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my list. I'm sure you're going to add some, and I'm sure our listeners are going to be like, you forgot this. But sorry, guys, it just wasn't flowing when I was thinking about it today. So On Golden Pond, Parenthood, because I think it's more of a drama than a comedy. Terms of Endearment, Ordinary People, which is great. Fucking love Ordinary People. The Great Santini, Manchester by the Sea, which I wasn't a huge fan of. Mommy Dearest, Flowers in the Attic, Family Stone, Squid in the Well, Dogtooth, which I have not seen, but you were talking about Dogtooth, right?
That was my recommendation. That is a sick family drama.
Oh, wait, that was your recommendation? Okay, so I'll scratch that out. Parasite, Still Magnolias, Grifters. That's all I got. so
See,
far.
I don't think Grifters belongs on that list. I mean, yes, one of the characters is the mother of the other character, but they're at no point do they act like a family, and yeah, it's too weird.
I think that's fair.
I think that's fair.
I don't have a lot of stuff to add on the movie side because I avoid movies like that whenever possible. But I will say, like, you know, because I'm a complex creature with many hypocrisies and idiosyncrasies. One of my favorite TV shows of all time probably would technically be a family drama, and that's The Sopranos.
Yeah. Would you consider Mad Men a family drama? I'm sorry, not Mad Men. Breaking Bad.
That's interesting. I mean, the family is the core of that show. That Walter begins doing what he's doing ostensibly to save his family. And the arc of the show is that by doing what he did to save his family, he ends up destroying his family. That is the arc of the show. So you could make an argument. I mean, and I think that's the Sopranos argument as well, which is that Tony's constantly talking about how everything he does for his family. That's like he's like, everything I do for you guys, this big house, all the money, everything is for you. But the fact that he does the things that he does is what is constantly destroying his family. His children are both a complete mess. His wife is miserable. Everybody in his life is miserable because of the things that he does, which he claims he's doing for his family.
I'm going to make an argument for number 2 for Ordinary People, because it was Robert Redford's directorial debut, and I just thought it was terrific. Just so well done. And I didn't realize the movie was really about Donald Sutherland till the end. And, you know, it's kind of, you think it's focused around this kid or whatever, but the one person that changes and makes the decision is Donald Sutherland. When he has that realization at the end that his wife has never loved that son, even when the older son was still alive. And she treated him like this, and that'll never be reckoning. And he chooses the son and decides to part ways with her. So, Ordinary People is number 2. Do you like The Great Santini?
I actually do like The Great Santini.
Bobby Duvall is so great in that.
I'm going to say the reason I like The Great Santini is 100% because of Robert Duvall. It's not the kind of story I would normally care about. That whole toxic father-son relationship thing, that does not work for me. I had a very toxic relationship with my father, and the whole romanticizing the father-son thing, even when it's toxic, just pisses me off. But Robert Duvall is a transcendent talent.
Would you say it romanticizes it?
Yes, I do think it romanticizes it because it makes, like, you know, he comes to realize that the tough love he got from his dad is what made him the man he is. And spoiler alert for a 50-year-old movie, when the Robert Duvall character dies, his son's like, they're moving to the next place, and his son is saying all the same lines that his dad said the last time they moved, and he's sort of taken over the father role. I think it does romanticize it. I think it's like he turned me into the man I am. Like, yeah.
So for me, what I see is the continuation of the tragedy, the continuation of that this son was mentally and physically abused by his father and humiliated, but he couldn't help because it's his father that he loved him and adored him, and now he's continuing that tragedy, and he'll probably end up treating his son the way that he was treated by the Great Santini.
I think that is a perfectly valid read of that. Absolutely. I would not argue with you. I didn't feel that way when I watched it, but I could totally see why you would take that interpretation.
Yeah.
I think that actually makes a lot of sense.
Terms of endearment, I will vote for number 4.
Okay. Yeah.
I think number 5 is tied with Parasite and Still Magnolias.
Of the two, I definitely would side with Parasite. Now, I didn't love Parasite as much as everybody else did. Like, when Parasite came out, everybody was like, it's the greatest movie ever made. I didn't love it that much, but I think I would much rather watch Parasite again than I was forced to watch Still Magnolias. I would much rather watch Parasite 10 more times than watch Still Magnolias once.
Who forced you?
I believe it was...
it had to be Janae.
It was my wife and my mother.
Okay.
This was when we were very first married. This was a long time ago. So this is like 30 years ago or something, whenever that movie came out.
Right.
And they rented this movie, and it came out on video or whatever, and they rented this movie, and they were going to watch it. And my wife was like, oh, you have to watch this with us. And I'd been married a short enough time that I thought I still had to do what she said.
Right.
Like now, the new version of me, like this current version of me, fuck no, I'm not watching that. But back then I was still worried about
making her happy.
Making her happy.
Now you realize that's just a fruitless dream. That's not possible. All All right, well, I'll agree with you on Parasite. I don't know. I actually like Still Magnolias. Yeah, I'll go with Parasite. All right.
Also, the other thing that Still Magnolias does that pisses me off is romanticizing this idea that the most important thing you can do with your life is have a baby. So even if it kills you to have a baby, you should still do it anyway. That also pisses me off. That's probably the other reason I hate Still Magnolias.
I mean, Sally Field was completely against that in the movie, and she ended up having a baby and dying. So I don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It didn't glorify it. It didn't say, the movie wasn't all in on like you should have a baby no matter what, and even if it kills you. It had all the different colors and variations of what people thought and schools of thought in the movie. All right, Clint, help us with the tiebreaker: Parasite or Still Magnolias?
Ooh, I'm going to say Still Magnolias because screw you, Ty.
Okay, so Die Hard, Ordinary People, Grace Santini, Terms of Endearment, and Still Magnolias because screw you, Ty.
Can I throw a couple more movies out that I don't know if you guys have seen, but if you have, they're actually family movies, I think.
Please do.
There was a movie that came out about 4 or 5 years ago with Viggo Mortensen called Captain Fantastic that I liked very much.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know a documentary called Capturing the Freedmans?
No.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
But Captain Fantastic, that's got Viggo Full Frontal, right? So that should... that's
if I'm going to watch Viggo Full Frontal, I'm going to watch Eastern Promises.
Eastern Promises, yeah.
Eastern Promises is where I get all the Viggo dick I need. I don't need other Viggo dick.
There's an incredible naked fight in Captain Fantastic, too, if that's what you're looking for.
No, when?
No, of course not. I'm kidding.
Oh.
Or have you guys seen a Danish movie from the mid-90s called The Celebration? Or it was released under the name Festen. It's called Celebration in America.
No, never heard of it.
No, but you made me think of the Australian movie Animal Kingdom. Because that's about a family, right?
You bet it is. Explicitly so, yeah.
And that's a fantastic movie. That actually could be on the top five.
But I like Animal Kingdom, so... Because it has violence.
So it must not be a family.
Because it has violence in it and people get murdered, and I like that. I think the thing that it should become clear in this conversation is I don't care about watching people explore their feelings and grow as humans and become better. I don't care about that at all. What I care about is some guys get smoked. That's what I want.
So that's our list. Die Hard, Ordinary People, Grace Santini, Terms of Endearment, and Still Magnolias because fuck you, Ty. Thank you guys for hanging out. This was a good time. Next episode, we are going to have a very special guest, one of my most favorite people in the whole world. And should we tell him who it is, or is it going to be a surprise?
Oh, we could tell him. Build up some hype.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have scheduled to bring Joanne Hansen on the show to hang out with us. So we're going to do a special episode. We're not going to talk about any particular episodes of the show. We're just going to talk to Joanne. Same way we did with Jeremy Benning when he was on, about working on the show for 6 years and doing costuming. And we'll get the real dope from Joanne on how large Wes's package is when she fits the clothes on him. We'll get all the real... Actually, I'm sure Joanne will give us the full measurements of everybody on the show. So that'll be a fun thing to talk about. And yeah.
And she's just insanely talented, and so much of what the look and feel and vibe of the Expanse is all due to her. And she's been running the costume and wardrobe department since season one, day one, and she is one of our most valuable assets, and we're very lucky and happy that she's a part of the Expanse and that we get to have her on the show.
Yeah, and if you're interested in behind the scenes stuff about how a show is made, you're not going to want to miss that episode because Joanne has been working in this industry for a really long time. She knows her shit, and we're going to dig down on just how complex that job is and all the different areas that it touches in a show.
Excellent. Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.